Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to my dining room. Depending on when you watch this video, all I would say is I hope you're safe and sound. There's obviously the Covid-19 outbreak at the moment, so if you're watching this video during the middle of that, I hope you're staying safe, and if you're watching it afterwards, I hope you stayed safe. But I thought it's day 5 or 6 of lockdown. So in the UK, kind of we're restricted from the amount of times we can go out of the house. You can only go out of the house once for any sort of exercise and for kind of work and kind of shopping and things like that. But it's got to be kind of essential. You just can't go gadding about. Apart from those idiots that all last weekend decided it was a bank holiday and headed off to Snowdon and places like that. If you're one of those idiots, please unsubscribe. But because I'm in the house, I thought I'd make a film about photographing stuff in the house. So I'm going to try, I haven't kind of prepared anything, but I'm going to go and look around the house and see what I can find and see what I can photograph. I'm going to use the dining table as my kind of laboratory. I've got some gear, some lighting, some backdrops and stuff. But I've no idea what I'm going to get. And I know we've got some house plants, so obviously some kind of plant photography, but who knows? Let's see what else we can come up with. But I thought it might be an inspiration for you. If you're stuck in the house or your flat or wherever you live, might be some inspiration that kind of while we can't get out and go around, maybe we'll make the best of what we've got and see what we can come up with. So I'm going to go and hunt around the house and see what I can pinch and use in my studio. So the first thing I found is a bit obvious. So we have a few orchids around the house, so it's a house plant. It usually lives on the kitchen windowsill, and it's very beautiful. In fact, all the flowers died off a few months ago, and it's now got this lovely, I'll show you, lovely array of how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new flowers. So it's a bit obvious, but what I thought I'd do is, because I've got a lot of kit here, you know, I've got kind of a soft box and flashers and stuff like that, but you might not have those at home. So I'm going to restrict myself to just using the camera and the subject. So I'm not going to use any additional lighting, because if you've not got that at home, it's not fair for me to then kind of use all that gear. So I'm going to challenge myself. And what I'm doing with the orchid is I'll show you. Now, I have got a little bit of a cheat because I've got my macro lens, and if you've not got a macro lens, you could probably use a 50mm lens, or you know, another fixed length lens, and just try and experiment. But what I'm doing, rather than go for kind of an obvious kind of collection of the flowers, and without having any backdrop in, if I was going to do a collection of the flowers, I'd put a backdrop in, maybe white, go for a kind of a high key approach. I've made a film about doing that sort of photography with flowers, so I'll put the link in up there somewhere. But rather than do that, I'm just using the light from the window. I've got the orchid actually stood on an old ice cream box, and I've just got quite close, and I'm going to make it look a little bit like kind of some sort of alien world. So I've focused right in the center of the orchid, so you can't actually see the whole of the flower. You're just seeing the very, very center. So I'm just focusing on this kind of yellow center. I'm on f2.8, and because I'm just using natural light, it's quite a long, relatively long shutter speed. So let me just check what that was again. Yeah, it's a, oh, hang on. Yeah, 1/4 of a second. So I'm using the 2-second shutter delay, taking a kind of real close up of that flower. I might try a couple of others, kind of different angles or whatnot, but that's my kind of first image in the bag. Flower up close. Most people have some sort of flower or plant in the house. Give it a try. Use the natural light from the window. Get close on a tripod, slow shutter speed, and see what you can come up with. I'm using a shallow depth of field, so hopefully it's a bit creative. So next thing I found is this, it's actually a beautiful wooden box. We bought it in in Canada, British Columbia, about 20 years ago, actually probably more than 20 years ago. And it's just a kind of nice box with a lovely lid. It feels lovely. It's made from yellow cedar. But what attracted me to it, I was actually just kind of in the office looking at kind of stuff on the bookshelf, and I saw this, and it's the kind of textures. There's some lovely kind of textures on the front where the bark is still in place. Hopefully you can see that. And it's picking up the light quite nicely. I'm hoping the sun comes out a little bit. But also on the top, there's kind of a honeyed, it's very smooth, kind of honeyed kind of pattern. Beautiful, almost kind of like a kind of a gold colour. So you can almost kind of see a reflection in it. So I'm going to kind of have a go at this. But what I'm hoping for is the sun's gone behind the clouds. It'd be quite nice either on the bark side, so I can photograph it that way. But if there's a nice bit of sun coming in, it'll provide a nice contrast. And I'm also going to photograph it from above again, using my macro lens. But I'm going to kind of have a bit of an experiment with that. So let's see how I work on that. I won't go through the process, but I'll post the images and see how they come out. I'm quite enjoying this. It's a bit like a treasure hunt around the house. Makes you look at things differently in the house in terms of kind of objects and ornaments and what you can do creatively. So next up, I've got a feather. So I know not everybody's going to have a feather in the house, but I've got a little bit of a collection of feathers. I think this is a common buzzard feather, but I'll show you what I'm doing with it in a second. But I thought it was appropriate to show you this, because this is the sort of thing you can do at home. This is an image I took a couple of years ago, and it's a dragonfly wing. Now, unfortunately, the dragonfly was dead, so I was able to kind of take the image of the wing, and I've actually got this. I'm not mad really. I've got a collection of dead dragonflies in a box in the office for doing stuff like that. So if you see a dead dragonfly, package it up and send it to me. Always useful. But anyway, I'll show you what I'm doing with the feather. I'm going to point you down at the... So I've got all I've done is I've put the feather on a piece of white A4 paper. And if I show you kind of the back of the camera, what I'm trying to do is line up the feather so that the middle is running. I'm going to just move it a little bit around. Middle of the feather is running kind of right through the middle of the composition. So hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing there. It doesn't really matter what aperture you've got for this sort of thing. I'm going to brighten it. I'm going to brighten it not that much, probably there. I've focused on the kind of the middle. There's probably a technical phrase for it. It won't be stem, but you know, the bit that runs through the middle of the feather. And I quite like using that as a kind of a line right through the middle of the image, and then the pattern above and below that line is quite different. So I'm quite enjoying that. It's just a brown and white feather. I might convert it to black and white, I don't know, I'll wait and see. But I've got some other feathers, but they tend to be either all white or all black, so it's nice to get this patterned one. But is that 3 images now from just kind of having a quick scoot round the house? So let's see what else I can come up with. This one's a classic orange. So I'm going to eat this afterwards, but I've just sliced kind of an orange. I've sliced it through the middle, and then I sliced the top off, and I've got a plate just below the camera, and I'm actually photographing the top bit because it's more interesting, I think. But anyway, I'm going to show you something. I've just kind of placed the orange so there's a nice composite. When you're doing this sort of photography, you can mess around with the kind of composition to your heart's content. But I just want to show you something on the sorry, the live view's just gone off. But I just want to show you something on kind of the live view. So I quite like the kind of composition. Just going to move it a little bit. I like kind of the star effect, but just want to show you something that really makes a difference. Hopefully this shows up. Just got the torch on my camera. Look at that. You can see that the camera picks up the liquid and the torch on the phone picks up the kind of the liquid, and you get lovely reflections. So without the camera, it's quite dull. With the torch, sorry, it's quite dull. With the torch, lovely kind of depth to that image, and you can play to your heart's content, moving your kind of torch around as your light source. Just going to turn that off to save a bit of battery. But yeah, nice tip. I'm also wondering about lighting the orange from underneath, because if I hold it up to the window, I can kind of see through it. I'm wondering what that might be like, but I'll have to play with that, because I'll have to find a way of kind of supporting it and lighting from underneath. But anyway, I'll take a few images. I'll take one image without the torch and one image with the torch, and you'll see the difference. So it's been quite fun, this, isn't it? You know, when you can't go out of the house, really, it's quite fun to be kind of messing around and kind of experimenting. I don't know whether you'd consider this one a bit of a cheat. So my kids, they're not kids anymore, they're 20 and they're 17, but when they were little, they used to love collecting rocks and pebbles, and they've got quite an extensive kind of collection of kind of gems. We used to go, it's a place up in Scotland, what's it called, the Gem Rock Museum. We used to go and spend their pocket money. So we actually found it the other day, the kind of box of gems. My sons are, in fact, kind of because of the coronavirus, my son's trapped in Leeds and he can't get home, which is a bit sad, but we found it the other day and we were showing them. And I found this, I think it's a geode. There'll be some geologists out there will know what it is, but it's a nice purple colour. It's got amazing kind of texture, and I've just got this bit of black kind of cloth. So I'm using my ice cream box again, and I'm standing the gem on the ice cream box, and then hopefully you can see it's picking up the light really nicely. There's a lovely kind of lavender purple colour. So I'm going to take an image like that. That's f2.8, so really shallow depth of field. Now I'm going to go up to f8. Can I just get my focus right and see what difference that makes? I just kind of like the kind of the patterns and the kind of jagged nature and the way it's picking up the light. So what's that, 5 or 6? Can't remember now, I've lost counts. The orange was very nice, by the way. But you could do that, any piece of fruit, you could, chop in half. There's always, an apple, a pear, anything. Chop in half, put it onto your camera, and you get kind of nice results. But it's about 5 or 6. I've spent not very long, just having a quick scoot around the house, kind of grab something, take a photo, and can't get outside. We shouldn't get outside if we're being responsible. We shouldn't be going kind of where we shouldn't be. We definitely shouldn't be driving anywhere to take photographs. If you can walk from your front door, that's great. And I could actually be in the garden, although it's not kind of in full bloom yet and it looks a bit raggedy. There are some flowers out, but I just wanted to kind of try something where I'm only photographing in the house, stuff I can find in the house with just a camera and a lens. So hopefully it's a bit of inspiration, a bit of fun, kind of nothing too serious, and I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe kind of if you kind of get some inspiration and you do some images at home yourself, kind of share them, let me know where you're putting them, Instagram or whatever. It'd be cool to have a look. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment and maybe subscribe, but most important, stay safe, stay home, stay safe.